Travis. Here we go, right into our third match of the day. And Mirage and Misfits Premier are going head-to-head here, both 1-1 currently. There's a lot of expectations. I think there's going to be another big fight in the bot lane here for us, Beatdown, but should be interesting to see how this draft ends up coming together.
Yeah, I'm so interested in what's going to happen. I mean, if we look at both of these teams here, Mirage, a team that, even though I think they have potential, and I agree, I'm not sold yet because of their win against K-Corp. Look, it's good. You punish them in that late game, but that's not convincing enough to me. I think for the most part, K-Corp had their number, and I want to see a better early and middle game from them here. And on Misfits side, I mean, you do have 4 new members. They're starting to play together pretty well, but their draft, the first game, first stage match, I think was pretty ambitious on their end against this when they also played K-Corp, funny enough. So now I think both these teams have tough matches this week against a lot of teams who you could argue are middle towards top of the pack. So it's going to give us more of an idea on where they stand.
Well, I'm going to cut them a little slack here, Beatdown. You know, they had to move a location here very recently. They've only been scrimming for about a week before the season. And, I mean, taking down K-Corp's also got to at least inject some of that momentum, some of that confidence into your veins. So we'll see, but I do agree. We need to see at least better early in mid-games, I would say, overall, because they're really good at playing from behind. But can they actually build up a lead and capitalize and close it out? That's the question. But it looks like we have our bot lane for Mirage. Cody-san has played Jinx every single game so far. That's not going to change. He wants that. But this time, it is going to be paired here with that Braum.
Yep, and there it is on the other side. I think taking away the Thresh, one, is a big deal because that's a really good combination. And also, it could open you up to that Aphelios that I really think is what we're going to see here. I know we're hovering the Aatrox, but come on, like you guys can't fool me. It's got to be Aphelios on that pick too. Caitlyn's off the board, something along those lines. Oh, you know what? Never mind. I'm convinced it's Teemo. How should I?
That's it all along.
There it is. I'm on to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also like the Jarvan takeaway here potentially. I mean, they did opt into the Xin Zhao, but just making sure that there's nothing else going to come into the mix here. Also able to add in some hard engage to this Aphelios that is going to have to rely on this Lantern to get him out of harm's way. But now we head in towards the bans now for our second phase. What does Misfits want to start to pinch away here? Do they want to try to target out Rang Jun, who feels like he has been one of these more versatile mid lanes right now in the league, opted into the Silas that we did see there throughout last week.
That's true.
Now it is going to be at least a couple of bans thrown up towards Bad Lulu, so they're going to take away the Camille first.
I think because of how many mid laners are up, unless you're trying to get rid of something really specific from Rang Jun, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think Misfits are probably going to look more towards top lane just because of the fact that, on red side, very common in the last little while where you're trying to give your top laner the best matchup they possibly can, especially in this current meta where it's so bot focused. If you give them a solid matchup, you don't feel as bad for leaving them on the island up there in the top lane. So,
good point.
We're also going to see the Akali. I'm actually super convinced that's a top lane ban as well. It's because with the new oh my gosh, why can't I remember that item? The tank item that gives you the speed up. Singe likes it.
I'm trying to think of it too.
Oh wow, I don't know what's going on. But the point is that item with the demonic embrace, the shadow flame on Akali, absolutely sickening.
Jack's also going to come through here as one of the bans. So lots of bans thrown up towards that top lane, as you mentioned. And now Misfits need to figure out what they want to blind going into their very first pick. Plenty of good champions left up in the mix, I will say, here for them. So it is a matter of really what they want to kind of round out their composition with.
Yeah, I mean, Chayak, we saw him play. I believe he played the Corki last week, and that's something he could look towards again. Victor, I think, would be fine as well with how the front to back is seeming to set up here for Misfits, but it's looking like the Corki is something that he's going to lock in for himself. It's nice. You have this threat from range, and you still manage to threaten that all in, whether it's with the Corki package or the Xin Zhao, who is going to be looking for a lot of these angles to start things off. And that's, as you say, we're giving Irrelevant the best matchup possible. They're going to give him to the very last second to make a decision here. So now the question is on Mirage. What are they looking to blind here? Syndra, I think, would be fine. You do offer a little bit of range of your own, some disengage, which is a big deal with that scatter of the week. And I think looking into the top lane, because you have Braum as well, who can kind of engage or disengage, we could see them go for something like the Kennen that has become very popular. I don't think Bad Lulu's played it yet, but we have seen Irrelevant play it. We've seen a lot of players actually play it in the top lane, and it's something that would offer a lot of engage for them here, but it seems like instead it's going to be the Aatrox, which is what they're a lot more comfortable blinding. Yeah,
a little bit more comfortable bringing it in. I will say it is interesting because the Jarvan sure is diving in. The Braum's going to follow, but you do have a couple of these backliners that are going to want to kind of chill and keep their distance, try to zone throughout the team fights a little bit more. So we'll see if the synergy ends up coming together. If they get some strong engages, it can certainly work here for us. But how about a Jace coming in? So, I mean, that is going to be a top lane matchup here for us. We talked about, a lot lot of the teams, especially in week 1, just really leaving top lane. I don't even think the junglers barely even came up there. So we've seen today there actually has been a lot more top pressure here. And you talk about a matchup where you have an Aatrox and a Jace. You want to get the Jace ahead. We very well maybe could see Tinks try to make some roams or try to make some rotations up towards the top side, see if they can get the Jace ahead.
Right, and I mean, I actually think even though we see a lot of attention.
And here we go. Match number 3 here on the day. Just came off of a very nice game that went to about 38 minutes, and we weren't really expecting that whatsoever. So who knows what's in store for us in this one. Mirage have most commonly fell behind in the early to mid game, but they have been relentless, and they have made it very difficult for a lot of teams to close out on them. And now that you have some of these comfort picks back in here, specifically talking about Cody Sun getting back on the Jinx, it feels like he's very much taken this carry role, very much taken this Jinx as someone that he can look to just basically rip the enemy team apart, especially when he starts getting some of these items here. So looking at him to see if he can continue to keep that going here for a squad.
And you know what, too? I think that the Braum for Raxo is a pick that I actually very much like. It's a support I think isn't valued as much as I think he should be, just because especially you saw the Thresh was coming through, you saw Tinks was running the Xin Zhao. I mean, the ability to disengage, to block some of the poke damage, actually with that shield he has too, is going to be a big deal for Mirage, and especially if they manage to get to these team fight setups, whether it's good setup for them or the fact that Misfits are slacking.
Yeah, not too many better champions at face checking than a Braum, that is for sure. So. You'll see it again here, and it looks like bot lane did use some summoners. I would have missed it here through the observer, but I'm seeing an ignite down, and I'm seeing a flash from Vander. So I'm going to make an assumption and say that Vander stepped up a little too far in the lane there and got punished there, Beatdown.
Yeah, probably got hit by a Winter's Bite, had the passive starting to stack, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I need to leave. And there's already early bot pressure for Raxo, Cody Sun, which is a pretty big deal so far, as we talked about. It's very likely, at the very least, Tinks isn't going to be making his way to the bottom side as we expected. Oh, no, actually, I'm mixing it up. So it's Tinks who is actually going top to bottom, will be there first. It's Memento who is pathing towards the top side away from his bottom lane. So Cody Sun and Raxo getting these early advantages will hopefully allow them to get things like the wave shove, be able to avoid this Xin Zhao gank that's probably coming.
Ward is down, hook is going to land. Raxo makes sure he's not in range of that play, so should be okay. But Cody Sun actually eats quite a bit of damage here, and that very well could end up drawing Tinks down, as you mentioned here for us. Memento gonna just probably run right through the mid lane here. We expect the J4 to typically be active because of the gank pressure that you have here with the CC and the damage in the early game. I mean, I think it's Cadril that says, you know, if you're gonna pick J4, you better make sure that you're gonna capitalize in the early game, find some early pressure, see what you can take away from your opponent. But Memento's found himself in a pretty good situation here. Clearing quite a few camps, will be able to get his hands on the very first Scuttle Crab here in the bot side.
Yeah, and really interesting pathing, I think, from both junglers here. I mean, Tinks, we saw him go top to bottom, but he ended up curving his way to the top side. Memento actually did the opposite there. Because he has the mid priority, it's easy for him to move down, take that Scuttle Crab, and he even pinged that he's looking for a play on the Chayak, and oh,
there it is. That is the first blood, and it's over to Rangjun, one of the players that you absolutely want to have some of that gold in his pocket.
That's right, player who, God, Tinks don't do it. I want to talk about Rangjun, but maybe I'm not going to get the opportunity yet, as look at the poke path. He's so low.
Oh, no.
He can solo him.
Yeah, Bad Lulu. He is not in a good position whatsoever. Flashes away. Will get collapsed on. Tinks gets pulled back. Is that enough to make sure it's a 1-for-1? And that will be the play. So TP is being changed, but you can still come to the tower, defend those dives, and Rangjun make sure it's a 1-for-1.
I think the Infernal Chain's actually pulling Irrelevant back, or rather, pulling Tinks back was a big deal too. Irrelevant ended up taking too many tower shots and could not help his jungler. So it ends up being the 1-for-1. It just cost Rangjun's teleport, but it is a good play. You have the Syndra 2-0, and now I get to talk about it a little bit. Yeah, which is nice for wave push. Now he can pressure Chayak just a little bit more, and because that was technically his blue buff, he's not going to be able to do as much about it here. Rangjun, he's a player subbed on all the other teams he has been on, and they have been some illustrious teams, and most notably Dom1 Gaming, sub to Showmaker himself. Sure, he's picked up a lot of tricks, and now that he has this opportunity to start for Mirage, he has this opportunity to show us what he can really do. Let's see how much potential he really has.
There's one player I'd want to learn from Beatdown. It would be Dom1 Kia's mid laner, Showmaker. So I'm on the same page. I feel like he's got to have a couple tricks up his sleeve, and so far so good, as he's made a roam play. He's 2-0. He set up the nice gank here in the mid lane, opted in for the early sorcery boots, that he's going to have a little bit more movement speed. And I know. Oh, I'm gonna hold my thought right here. Relevant. He might be in some trouble. Doesn't have the flash. Bad Lulu. Okay. Will have the queue up soon, but won't be able to find it. Does he want to dive? Oh, he tried, but Irrelevant, I think, is going to be A-okay. But the point I was going to go into here is that, this Syndra into the Corki feels like this is one of the mid laners that a lot of people are opting into for this mid matchup because Corki is able to neutralize quite a few of them. But as you can see, Rangjun has so much pressure, especially when he can land this long-range scatter of the week. And now that he has access to the R, Shayek's going to be very careful here on this Corki.
Right, he has the blue buff as well. Hold on a second. We got a 3v3.
Yeah, Memento wasn't ready for the jungler to come behind him. Braun's going to be able to jump away. Raxo's going to be fine, but those are low health bars. Vander, could he fish for any CC? It looks like they don't want to risk it. Will not continue. And now both junglers should walk away as Tinks was maybe thinking about re-engaging.
Yeah, and the wind becomes lightning is very tempting when you end up landing that one, but I think they're wisely backing off, especially on Mirage's side, rather. Wulai does have the no, you should not fight him guns at the moment here, so they're just going to let him shove this wave, move up to the river. However, they aren't going to be able to very secretly take this dragon, as Memento very quickly grabs the Scuttle Crab here, and I think that's going to dissuade them from going for it. The health bars were a little bit low. They're just going to grab some honey fruit, it looks like, from their regenerating HP, and then just go right back to lane and try to keep this pressure on right now.
That's going to be the goal for us. First dragon of the game is going to be an Infernal. It's been just about Hextech Drakes every single time first, but we'll see if the Infernal ends up spiking any of these players to come down to the bot side here and see if they can have their hands at a little bit of extra damage here across the board. Codysun should be fine to clear things out. Roxo has also been able to pretty much bring his HP up to full, but look how much time Memento has spent around Rangjun. He is like tempting and daring Tinks to come punish my mid laner. Come up here, see if you can take down this bounty. I bet you that 150 is looking good, but if you do, Memento has been there making sure that he needs the presence, or has the presence he needs to be able to actually push out this lane and continue to pressure Shayek here on the court.
That's right. I mean, at this point, Shayek looks like he's trying to do his best to shove this next wave in, hoping that Rangjun can lose out on some creeps, but ultimately, Syndra is incredibly fed at the moment here. Insane purchase probably coming through. That is the lost chapter. And I think he just bought the Corrupting Potion as well. So it's going to be able to, even if you don't have the blue buff, able to continue getting some of that health, some of that mana, so you can continue pushing and threatening out this mid wave. And now that Memento's level 6, I think he's going to be a little more enticed into looking for this Corki in the mid lane. Now you have that Cataclysm, now you can really try to lock him down, especially if you have Falcon.
Oh, well, they know that Shayek did just opt in for a back, and that means that Rangjun should be able to clear out this mid wave. That's going to have to be caught now. That's that 8-minute mark, so the package is in play. Here. Do they want to contest this Rift Herald? 4 members in position right now for the side of Mirage Elyandra, but I think they're going to make the call. They're not here first, so they're just going to back away, and that means that Mirage do secure the Rift Herald.
And I think the big thing, too, credit to Raxo, made it there miles ahead of Vander, which was what offered a lot of the threat Mirage had. And at this point, what?
Oh, Shayek, he uses the package, will Valkyrie away, and is able to get to the Lantern. Rangjun, nice flash, but not going to be able to get away from the CC, and it's going to be Vander that swoops in and grabs that shutdown.
A lot of flashes blown, even the package used by Shayek, but that is a big play coming through from Misfits. Being able to shut down this Syndra, doesn't have TP available, so going to lose out on some of the CS. The nice thing, though, Moonlight, with that Moonlight Vigil we saw him use earlier, will pressure Codysun out of lane, allow him to pick up a turret plate for himself, which means he's going to continue advancing this gold lead he has over Mirage's 80 carry, and because of he's going to be a big source of damage when we get up to the nitty and gritty, once we get past the poke, I think any extra gold Moonlight can get is going to be very helpful.
He's really been flexing his muscles in this matchup against Codysun. He's been left down here, alone quite a few times, that entire Rift Herald fight. He forced him out of lane, forced this wave to basically be lost here. And now that wave's also going to start to bounce back, potentially meaning that could be an opportunity for Tinks if he wanted to stay on the map, but instead wants to take this opportunity to reset, spend all of that gold that he has just collected for himself. But we look at the Infernal, it is still very much alive, still very much active. Rangjun's going to be able to get his hands on his first blue given to him. Right. The other one he earned, so this one's going to be nice as he's going to be able to continue to pressure Shayek.
Right, and you can just tell how much pressure they're applying into the mid lane here. Like you called, Memento spending so much time there in those brushes, saying, hey, Shayek, anytime you want to go on my mid laner, no problem, buddy, I'm here for him. And especially now with this Rift Herald up and available, another play like that happens where they're able to shut him down this time around because Shayek doesn't have flash. Worth noting. They can get a lot of turrets into Rongjun's pocket, or maybe they could make a play onto the bottom side, take down Woolite, and get some plays into Cody Sun's pocket.
Now a group up in the mid lane, Memento almost having access to that Cataclysm here again. Will they look to try to set up some of that vision? Looks to be the play. Tinks is going to know exactly where Memento is. He's got to level up on him right now too, but he doesn't really have all the support. Vander's just going to now move up. Bad Lulu is moving in again on Irrelevant. He's going to pop the World Ender, but he knows he can't go any further. Irrelevant close to the tower. Means that he should be fine, but he has been eating quite a bit of the damage here in a lot of the trades, and now it's going to be that Infernal Dragon. Don't think anyone's going to be here to steal it, so that means that Misfits are going to be able to grab the first Drake of the game.
Yeah, I suppose the playmaking isn't quite there. Memento doesn't have the flash to close the gap on members like Chayak, who on this Corki is very hard to get on top of. And when you consider Vander's Dark Passage as well, they just decide they're going to let this one go. They still have the Rift Herald to play for, and it's also going to allow Memento to do a little bit of invading, try to steal away that Raptors camp. And because of all this pressure top lane, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it change and have Memento move to this top lane and drop the Rift Herald there. I think Tinks is probably thinking the same thing, and that's part of why he's moved himself into this area of the map.
Despite all the presence, Shayak's been able to keep up in CS, which I feel like is a win in itself. As Memento has been here more than he's been in his own jungle, it feels like. And he was even hovering there again before the wave ended up being shoved in. And you almost feel like it's a little bit more necessary to do that since Rangjun does not have access to that flash after the mid play did break out there a few minutes ago. Cody Sun is back in the bot lane here, all alone up against Woolite, who's actually been able to come away with quite a few tower plates now. Almost a third on its way here. Both supports will meet each other in lane once again, but Woolite's been able to take full advantage of a lot of the roaming that's been coming through here from Raxo.
Woolite, only returning player to Misfits Premier. Huge roster shakeup, but this AD carry, someone they say they believe in, and that's what they say when they keep him on this roster. I mean, he has been really playing like it, even in the games that they lose, still has been performing well, and he is really performing this game. It's not just turret plates, Austin. He's 20 CS ahead of Cody Sun. He is looking really good in terms of overall gold. Speaking of gold, Mirage, not going to be able to take the turret, but they are going to get some gold plates in their pocket.
Yeah, nice roam into the jungle, and they could even flip that into the top side, but that's all pending what happens here with Tinks. He's going to know that the red buff is now gone as he throws out the question mark ping. But Rangjun wants to start doing, or rather, excuse me, Bad Lulu wants to start trading out a little bit here on Irrelevant, see if he can lower that health bar, and that's certainly low! The prediction flash! Bad Lulu finds the solo kill, and now they find Tinks on the rotation as well. Mirage, Elyandra, couple of big kills here in the top lane.
Oh, and that is big. Rangjun has all this pressure, all this priority, means he can move out of lane where Chayak has not been able to so far. So even if Tinks was there, that would have been a 2v3 trying to cover his top laner, ends up losing his life along with his top laner. And even though Irrelevant will manage to get his first item, I think he's just been in the blender, Austin, this whole game. Not a whole lot of jungle attention, and hold that thought.
Whoa, all right, Raxo is gonna face check here, but the Moonlight Visual does not end up finding anyone. Raxo could be rooted up, but he flashes away to make sure he's not chain CC'd, and it's Misfits that get the better end of that exchange.
Oh, really nice hook. They were on the recall, and I think, okay, we're gonna get a replay of the top lane where Bad Lulu, that's right, they ends up predicting the flash and just ends up, it's just that easy. But the thing is, it's Tinks on the way, seeing if he can do something. I mean, at this point now, it's interesting. Like, his top laner is already dead. I'm not sure about the passing, especially when he knows his red buff was taken there.
Hello, Irrelevant.
Oh, you're joking.
We didn't like playing League of Legends today because it is going to be another play made on the Jace. Irrelevant going down, losing out on more CS. The tower also getting low, but they're not going to opt in for it here, Beatdown. They're just going to swiftly move over to that Rift Herald.
Yeah, and I mean, there it is. They could use that Rift Herald on the top side if they truly want to. Irrelevant's still 15 seconds out, and what that means is he, even without teleport, isn't going to be able to actually participate in anything going on in the top lane for a little bit now. I mean, it's worth noting too, Mirage, just by virtue of Bad Lulu laning so well, is putting so much pressure onto Irrelevant, and at this point, Memento kind of shifts gears, thinking like, oh wow, you're smashing him? Well, let me help you right there. I got a hammer of myself that we can just beat him down with, and because of that now, they just keep setting this Jace further and further behind. He's not getting to those two items as quickly as he wants to, especially because you can see it, he has to buy that Executioner when you're playing against such a fed Aatrox.
A lot of additional components you really do need to start to build so that you can just last in the lane. But Bad Lulu has been sitting on a lot of gold. I'm curious to see what that back's going to look like. I feel like a full Gore Drinker is about to pop into that inventory as we also take a look and see Cody Sun has picked up his Gale Force, and there it is, Gore Drinker. A lot of items coming in actually across the board, but overall better for the side of Mirage here for the time being. They are still 1,000 gold up over their opponents at the moment, but Shayak, he's got access to the package here again. Last one did work out for a successful play in the mid lane. We'll see if this one does as well.
And I mean, look at the timing. We got Infernal Drake coming, or rather another dragon, coming in about 10 seconds. So plenty of time for Chayak to get this blue buff, try and set something up with the rest of his team here. If they manage to get a pick, that's an easy dragon number 2 for Misfits. They'll be halfway to the Dragon Soul, whatever it may be. And I think it's a good win con for them to play towards.
On the side, Tink's gonna eat some damage here. Memento now will level up on him. Mid lane, Vander under some fire. Does have to drop into the stopwatch just to make sure he lives through the burst, but that was a Glacial Fissure thrown out. Still a lot of ultimates available, looking at Memento in particular, but he's gonna drop the Rift Herald. They wanna try to crack open this mid lane, but how about a 3-man Cataclysm? Can the members of Mirage actually get here in time? The package comes through and separates the two.
Look at the damage!
Now in trouble as he will drop down. Memento needs to try to get out, but Tink's hot on his tail. Can't close the gap, can't get there in time. Overall, resulting here for both top laners dropping, but a lot of low health bars right now in Mirage.
That's right, and I think you walk away if you're Mirage. You're not going to be taking this dragon unless Memento goes for a very chat steal, but look at the HP. It is there, and even though that fight was scrappy, even though Chayak didn't get exactly what he was looking for with the package, it wasn't enough for Misfits to get this neutral objective. But the thing is now Mirage do, because of the turret and some of the kills they got, have pulled ahead in terms of overall gold. But it's worth noting again, when we saw that gold graph, it is from the top side of the map. It's from top jungle in mid, whereas Misfits, Moonlight is holding a nice chunk of gold.
181 CS as well. Cody Sun has had to play weak side, and you know, he has 136 CS specifically because Raxo's been moving a lot to mid, trying to get some of this vision down. Also, Memento has basically only been playing through mid and top here so far, and it's worked out for the better here. As you can see, 2-1 and 2 right now on Rank June. He's now starting to scale up here with the Sorcery Boots and the Luden's Echo. See the same thing for Bad Lulu as the Gore Drinker came through, and now he's got a little bit more sustain with a lot of the armor that has also been picked up here for him. But now with that mid lane tower is knocked down, Misfits are going to feel a little bit more of this pressure, and Moonlight's going to shift over here and start to pick up and collect all of the minions here in the mid lane.
Just continues to up the CS numbers. Him and Chayak are farming about as much as they can. They both have CS leads, even though in overall gold, Rangjun is probably ahead of this Corki. But ultimately, look at Moonlight at this point where his team's with him. They know this, and he is walking forward, Austin.
Whoa, that's a TP, and that was a little too early. The Lantern there to get him right back out. It is Rangjun, so he's likely going to now move in and see if they can take another red buff away. They got the last one. This one looks like it should be good as well. Raxos here to guard the entrance in case anyone wants to come in. Vander's going to face check. They're going to use the Glacial Fissure.
Nice roots.
That will be a beautiful ultimate. The Root 3 members down. Memento pulls the trigger again, and now will just get himself out. But Shayak, could he weave in a couple of these rockets? Dodges out on the Winter's Bite, but will not continue to chase.
Wow, you get the TP out of Irrelevant, you trade it for Rangjun, but nothing really ends up coming in terms of kills. You get pressure on this mid turret, but because all 5 are there, Bad Lulu very happy to continue this pressure he is dropping into the spot lane, so it's going to end up being 1 turret for 1 turret. But we're seeing an example of what some of these team fights can look like. Irrelevant, despite how far behind he is in lane, those shock blasts are doing work. You see it every time Cody Sun or someone like Rangjun ends up getting hit by it, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. Misfits, with this draft, they don't have to engage you right away. You can get whittled down by this Corki and by this Jace. And unless Mirage really find this angle where they can all in or catch a pick with that Scatter of the Week, it's going to be really hard for them to actually win out in some of these battles.
Everyone resetting, getting back out on the map. 2 dragons picked up for Misfits very early on, which has been in trade of 2 Rift Heralds, but that 3rd dragon that's coming up in 2 minutes and 20 seconds, have to imagine a lot more priority about to take place here for the side of Mirage Elyandra. As it's a fight over the camp, Bad Lulu comes back down to the bot side, and this time around he will be able to claim yet another tower.
Right, and he gets to shove in that wave. He actually gets to walk to the mid lane if he really wants to here. And now that Baron is on the map, that is a thing both of these teams are going to have to be considering, as Misfits fighting with 4 members for mid priority so someone can move into the river and set up some vision. But it's worth noting, you look from the top side of the map, Misfits have to clear out their own jungle, Austin. You can see Mirage have been doing a good job setting up these deep wards, making it so that this part of the map is dark. Misfits' own part of the map is dark if they're not in there. And that's the thing they have to deal with before they can even consider moving into the river.
Certainly the case here for us. Farm up now. Try to get some of these additional power spikes here for yourselves. A lot of big 2-item power spikes potentially on the table for some of the mid laners here, as well as the jungler. Memento has been very active, 2-0-3 on the Jarvan's, made a lot of big Cataclysm plays to not only engage, but also disengage, which is not something that we see a ton of while players are actually piloting the Jarvan, but Memento's somebody that has opted into a lot of these playmakers like the Lee Sin from last week, now on the J4. We'll continue to watch how he's going to be able to set up a lot of these team fights now as you're starting to see some stopwatches picked up. I think that means that an objective is coming up here very soon, Beatdown.
That's right. We do have another dragon coming through. It is going to be that Cloud Soul. And Misfits, well, I mean, they're 2 dragons away. So Mirage are trying to do something about that. And now you can see them using the pressure that they've got bought from Bad Lulu, constantly having it pushed in. It allows them to push in mid as well and continue to do what they've been doing all game, setting up this deep vision, making it so that Misfits have so much to clear before they can even get to that neutral territory in the river.
Cody said, I'm going to push out this wave right now. He's got a bit of a Guardian Angel here behind him in case someone were to try to make a play on him, but it looks like he's going to be fine. 2-item power spike for Woolite. He's now got that LDR picked up. He's going to be able to shred through that front line if anyone does end up overextending a little bit too far here in these fights that are only bound to unfold now as we're 10 seconds away. 3rd dragon potentially on the table for Misfits Premier. Shayak has also waited patiently for that package to be in play for this fight. And now it's going to be Mirage Elyandra. Let's start this one up.
And I think at this point, Misfits, they might try to play for the steal. If not, they can play for the fight after. Chayak is the big playmaker here.
All right, Memento takes down the dragon. Raxo gets out. He's very low on HP. Tinks finds a new target.
Bad Lulu
now forced into the World Ender. Chayak has to ult away. Could they find the kill? Memento, they do. Chayak finds the first one. Bad Lulu goes down for the second. Misfits, they will play it beautifully. And now 2 members going down means they could potentially move to the Baron.
That's right, no top, no jungle means Baron is certainly on the menu. They have 280 carries at a Jace, Austin. This purple worm is going to get ripped to shreds. And that fight, honestly, it was pretty good from Mirage, especially Memento, getting what was like a 4-man Cataclysm, forcing 3 flashes outside of Misfits, but it wasn't enough for his team to actually do the damage. In doing so, Cody Sun, Rangjun, they have to walk away, and part of it's because of how much they got poked out before the fight actually started.
Baron secured. Gold lead now shifting over to Misfits as they are 1K up, and now we take another look at how this fight all came together.
Right, you know Shayak, he's threatening the package, and look at that, between Irrelevant, between Shayak, there's so much damage coming through, and with Raxo going low, he can't actually participate in this fight. No one can help Bad Lulu, and despite the excellent Cataclysm from Memento, it didn't end up mattering. The range is just too powerful here on Misfits' side.
The package too. I mean, when you stand in that package, it shreds you. And I have experienced that many times from solo queue. So that is where that expertise comes from. It is gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot, especially when you're on top of it with an Aatrox and a Jarvan. Raxo is actually gonna get chunked out. And now he's maybe forced to back off of the mid wave, might have to reset in full. You do at least have Bad Lulu creating some top pressure and does have access to that teleport if he needs it.
And it constantly, this is what Bad Lulu has been, I think, forced to do given the situation here. He's able to offer a lot of pressure on the side. Nobody's really in a position to necessarily duel him, but Misfits, they're okay with that. They have a strong 4-man core. You want to mostly ARAM with Jace in this situation too, have him nice and protected, throw out all the ranged poke that he has to offer, and it's so hard if you look at that bottom 4 side of the map for Mirage. Who's really going to be able to do anything? Yeah, Raxo just has to soak up all that damage, and now Rangjun has to walk away.
Yeah, he has to back out of this fight. Scatter of the Weak is going to tag up Tinks. That's going to be a Cataclysm, but nobody's there to follow up on it. And now Cody Sun is chunked out of the fight. Misfits with their poke. It has just been devastating, and now that means they get to break open the base and find the first inhibitor.
That's right. Baron buff still good for a minute, but they don't want to push their luck, Austin. They got a nice chunk of gold in their pocket, and they have broken open Mirage's base. Overall, this is a fantastic game state for Mirage's LFL roster. They are coming out on top in all of these exchanges, and I think they've been in the lead most of the game. We only saw a brief moment where Mirage, in this early game, with Rangjun and Bad Lulu winning out in lane, having a lead. But until then, Misfits, or since then rather, Misfits have just been picking them apart.
4,000 golds up here with this Baron power play. Another 35 seconds left, and well, there's a lot of freestanding gold in this top lane at the moment. At tier 1 and tier 2, they might be able to move into. You can see Mirage trying to set it up beforehand. Tinks is going to get tagged with the Winter's Bite. Re-engage there, Flag and Drag, and the Glacial Fissure. Tinks in a lot of trouble. Will be able to take the Lantern out, but it's right into Bad Lulu as he'll feast on one. Turning now as it will also be the 80 carry, dropping, falling, taken down. Vander uses the death sentence to get himself out over the Raptor wall, but Mirage strike back here with 2 members and 2 picks in the mid lane.
Yeah, and it's Misfits getting caught out, which is a big deal here. You take out the 80 carry, you take out the jungler, and at that point, Misfits, they don't have a leg to stand on here. Woolite doesn't get to do the DPS that he needs to do here, and it's a big fight coming through for Mirage. You remove what little Baron power play was left, but you do allow yourself that time to breathe, to clear out some of these waves, and as we know, Super is coming bot, means a lot of gold and EXP, and in the pockets of Rangjun, who is really coming online there and really getting to these late game power spikes to Syndra, could still be helpful depending on how some of these next fights go.
Well, if there's one thing we know about Mirage Beatdown, it's that this is basically their comfort zone. When they're behind, backs up against the wall, have to defend somehow, some way, they have found windows to be able to work back into these games, take control, and then ultimately close them out. Mirage are going to invest the TP. That will be Rangjun coming back in to grab his blue buff that has been very nicely leashed for him. And it's a reset. It's a reset. Memento's like, man, come on, one job. I leashed that for you.
And now he's got to do it on his own. I mean, ultimately, because, oh my God, Austin, I just realized there's a pink ward that they realize so many people are on the top side of the map, and because nobody noticed it, they know Rangjun is still there. So Misfits can just go ahead and threaten another inhibitor turret. They know the blue just got taken, so they're just happy to walk away from this one. That's more supers coming in into Mirage's base.
It's got to be the most costly blue reset I think we've seen, at least so far.
I think ever.
Maybe ever, yeah. The biggest one I've seen, I guess. That's tough, and now that also means that they have the fast track to the Dragon as they have the mid wave pushed all the way in. Bot supers, of course, pouring into the base. They have all of the control in the world to put themselves on Soul Point.
And there it is. The Cloud Soul will be quite impactful on their end, and overall, Misfits still in a pretty solid gold lead at the moment here. We're getting to these really strong power spikes. You see Woolite just finished that Infinity Edge, and Austin, he went Kraken, he went Lord Dun. This dude rips people to shreds. If he can get off damage, if he can stay behind and out of trouble, avoid people and kite people like Bad Lulu and Raxo who try to get on top of him, he will tear them apart.
He sure will. And this Baron coming up now in about 40 seconds. Raxo's going to try to get some of that vision down here. Cody's son still behind Woolite here for the time being, but has been able to close the gap a little bit here for as far as the actual CS. Now is only going to be down about 30, but Misfits going to retake control over this blue quadrant. Rangjun going to do his best to defend it, but doesn't have a lot of support. Memento's backing in the top wave and will have to come back out onto the map here, but a lot of pressure around this Baron. Misfits can shred it if anyone ends up showing here on the map that shouldn't. And now Shayak and Tinks are going to finally collect that freestanding gold here for the tier 1.
Right, a nice little bit of extra pocket change for them as they set up so much vision for this Baron that they could honestly start at any time. It's as you say, Austin, they have the damage to tear, just to take it very, very quickly. It will melt, and that's why they're going to start it off. Nobody really knows for sure. We're going to need to see some blues before Mirage can actually realize it, but look at that. Half the Baron is already gone. They can play for the turn. They can play to finish because it's only Raxo who's walked in.
Can they get into the pit? No, they can't. It's going to be secured here for Misfits. Flash engage. Glacial Fissure does a bit of damage, but Raxo is taken low, and he'll ultimately be taken down. Cody's son now on 3 items with the Infinity Edge. Does he have anything in store for us here? Zap's going to land, but Tinks won't be able to follow up with anything. And now Bad Lulu goes over the wall, and he's like, oh, I don't know if I want to be here, but they don't collapse, and now everything will shift towards this top push.
That's right, they got to back off. Maybe they can use some of their poke. Wait a minute, Tinks is going in.
Re-engage, Tinks goes very far forward, and now it's the Cataclysm from Memento, but it's the Lantern that gets Tinks out, and it's in trade of the jungler. Momentum down, Raxo up in 5. Misfits looking for another tower here in the base.
And yet again, we see Memento use that Cataclysm for the disengage. It's always been an escape tool for Mirage, and it's looking like it's going to be part of why they end up escaping a win today. That's going to be 2 inhibitors taken down, the 3rd exposed, and Misfits could very well look to do it. Look, Chayak is TPing on the wave. Look at Raxo's health.
All right, this could be it. Raxo has to back. Bad Lulu as well. Chayak is shredding him.
Oh my God.
And he lives with a sliver of HP. You do have one team fight left. Memento's coming up in 5 seconds, but they're hammering on the towers. Chayak is dealing so much damage through the front line. Raxo can't even survive the burst. Rangjun goes forward. He takes out Woolite, but could they find anything more? Tinks is too far forward again, so they will defend the base. It will be Mirage Elyandra in a spot we've seen them before, and they're going to try to continue to chase.
Yeah, the spawn timers are pretty long, but there's nothing Misfits can really take away from this. They pick up shutdown, and Mirage managed to narrow the gold lead just a little bit. I actually think they're going to end up taking out Memento. Oh, no, off
TP. Yeah, this is a big play here for Cody-san. He is able to free hit, finds Irrelevant, and this is going to scatter up the respawns just a tad bit coming back out onto the rifts, but this is still a very difficult position. They have no longer Nexus Tower standing here in the base. It is an open Nexus now, also open to a potential backdoor if they ever push too far forward or overextend.
That's right. There are no wards in the base from what I can tell, but it's all 3 inhibitors that are taken down. So we got double supers coming in every single lane. And you can just see it. They're doing their best, Austin, to try and keep them out. But the problem is, double supers means they do a lot of damage to you. You got to let them walk you back into the base here. And that gives Mirage so much, or Misfits, excuse me, it gives them a lot of space to be able to just continue moving across the map, continue pushing their vision line as they set up for this Dragon Soul. Now Chayak, he has the package. This is the perfect time, Austin. One more good play, and Misfits can take it home.
4 items on Woolite, 4 items on Chayak. Both having a Guardian Angel. You gotta kill them twice if it wasn't bad enough to do it once. Mirage, what do you have? We've seen you do it before. You did it against K-Corp. Can you do it against Misfits Premier? Will they even just try to rush the Nexus? Bad Lulu's gonna pull the trigger onto Tinks, but it's gonna be a great route here with the Moonlight Visual now going all the way in with the back. Chayak is deep in the back line.
Is that 2?
And they will shred through everybody on Mirage Elyandra. That's one heck of a way to end game number 3 on the day. And it's Misfits Premier that collect win number 2.